Hi everyone, Hannah here. I am the founder of Honey Lips Essential Oils, and it is my job, my duty, my pleasure to educate you guys about how to use essential oils safely and effectively. When I first started with oils, I just got a kit, and then it just basically made over my medicine cabinet and my cleaning cabinet all in one go. But today we're not going to be talking about how to use essential oils. We're going to be talking more about where they're sourced and how essential oils came to be and the whole process that goes into creating an essential oil. So today's topic is co-impact sourcing. So we're going to be talking about how we can help, how doTERRA helps empower where the oils are grown and harvested and the work that they do in the process and production of the essential oils. So let me see if I can share my screen with you guys. Okay, let's make this full screen. Is this working? Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. Okay, all right, so hopefully you can all see that. Okay, so much goes into the production of essential oils that people don't always think about. Like some people say like, oh, well, aren't they all the same? And I totally thought that too. Like that's why I went to the health food store, right? And that's why I went in the mall, because I thought they were pretty much all the same. But there's so much that goes into the production of essential oil that people don't always think about. 95% of the essential oils that are on the market are contaminated in some way. So that either flat out diluted with like an olive oil or a cheaper essential oil. They're diluted with solvents and other chemicals and additives. They have solvents used in the distillation process. There's chemicals and synthetics and all this other stuff in them. 95%, isn't that ridiculous? So when people try these essential oils because they're trying to be healthy and natural, unless they're using doTERRA, 95% of the oils available on the market to buy are going to be contaminated. So it's really important to know where they're coming from. So what goes into the production of an essential oil? The best essential oil comes from the best plant, right? I mean, like you could find a wimpy lavender plant growing, by the side of the road, and you could still produce an essential oil from it. The plant will have an essential oil, but obviously a more healthy plant will have a better therapeutic properties in the essential oil. And so doTERRA doesn't just randomly find plants and just make an essential oil. They look for the best plants and the ones with the best therapeutic properties. Otherwise, why would we want to use them if they don't have any therapeutic properties for our bodies? There's no point. So it always starts with the best plant. So where do the best plants come from? Be different for every plant, right? It'd be different for every plant. But basically doTERRA goes all over the world to find the best plants. So grown in their natural habitats instead of a greenhouse, because the oils are how a plant defends itself. So if the plant's grown in a greenhouse, it doesn't have bugs or environmental factors or like the wind or like anything else that it needs to defend itself against. It's got food, it's got water, it's got pesticides, people take care of it. So it doesn't have to defend itself. But plants grown in their natural habitat in the wild are going to be exposed to all those things that the plant defend itself against, which helps the plant. So kind of like antibodies are to the human body, it kind of helps the plant defend itself against these environmental threats. Also, you need to be looking at, I'm not a gardener, but I understand the basics of growing a plant, in that it needs, the proper soil pH, the proper nutrients, the proper sunlight hours, temperature, humidity, all those kinds of things. So it seems pretty obvious that starting with the best plants will produce the best essential oils. Oh, how do I change the slide? Here we go. Okay, so what happens then when we go all over the world to find these oils? Where do we find them? How do we find the farmers? How does this whole thing happen? So basically, doTERRA gets to go and find the best plants in the world, and then they work with local farmers there. So their goal is not only to, they have a two-pronged goal, not only to produce the best quality essential oils in the world, which they do, but also to help empower local farmers and growers. Okay, so a lot of them are in really remote places, because again, like the best places in the world for some of these plants might be very remote, might be up mountains, it's not going to be by the side of the highway. So they might be in really tough spots. But they're also grown often their family farms that have been passed down through generations. So in some cases, these families that own these farms have literally hundreds of years of expertise and knowledge and wisdom in their specific plants, which is fantastic because the doTERRA get to learn from them. They're going to know more about growing these plants than anyone else in the whole world. So we get to use their knowledge, and then in return we get to help them by giving them what they need. Okay, so and that will be different in each case, but basically it's going to be a guaranteed buyer. It's going to be sustainable wages, safe working conditions, and then oftentimes we'll build other things and to help in the community. So in Haiti, where we source vetiver essential oil, people were walking 2 hours each way to get water. Okay, so once we started working with people in Haiti, we built them a well, so they didn't have to do that, right? So we helped take care of their needs as well as providing safe working conditions and a guaranteed buyer, which is a big thing because we'll go into that. Okay, all right. Okay. So from the beginning, doTERRA has been dedicated to producing the highest quality essential oils that are responsibly sourced. Okay, that's key, responsibly sourced. And so in order to achieve this, doTERRA has created a global botanical network that can support the constant demand for doTERRA essential oils while using safe, responsible practices. So some companies choose to buy their own plots of land where they can grow plants for their essential oils, but doTERRA chooses to rely on the expertise of growers and distillers around the world, many of whom have decades of experience with specific plants. So the growers and distillers in this global botanical network provide doTERRA with expert knowledge of quality plants, and doTERRA strives to provide things like job security, fair payment, and other helpful resources in return. Unfortunately, the essential oil industry has several problems that result in poor treatment of farmers and growers and distillers, especially for those in developing countries. So problems that have been around in the industry, which doTERRA is actively working against, is middlemen, people being ripped off, people not being charged fair wages. It's farming, so there's seasonal downs, and so they have seasons without pay. All this that makes it really hard for families to survive. And so one of the stories from doTERRA's growers was a family has a small family farm, and I forget the name of the plant that they were growing. They live in a small hut, and they work with doTERRA. And even though they live in a remote part of the mountains, where traditionally they've had a lower income there, they were still able to pay to send all of their children to go into the city for college, and were able to pay all of the school fees, which is amazing because and doTERRA has given them the sustainable work and the fair wages that they were able to do that. Okay, so I'm trying to stay on track here. So not all of the essential oils are created equal. We know that. And not all essential oil companies use responsible sourcing, okay? So like anything, people like to cut corners, but then that rips people off and also gives us a poorer product too. So when essential oil producers cut corners to save time and money during the production process, the farmers and the growers, distillers, are usually the ones who suffer. The growers and the distillers are the ones who do the difficult manual labor required to produce essential oils, yet they're often mistreated and underpaid by the oil companies. The growers can also have difficult times finding a guaranteed buyer to purchase their plants or parts of plants for a fair price, which causes their business to suffer. When a grower or distiller can't find a buyer, they're forced to turn to middlemen or brokers who offer really low prices for their plants, and then they resell them at a higher price. So they're getting ripped off. Many growers and distillers in developing countries struggle to support their families while they can't get fair payment for their work. And then lastly, some companies using growing or production tactics that can be harmful to the environment. And part of responsible sourcing is ensuring that the environment isn't threatened by the oil production process. So these issues, among others, are the common problems in the oil industry and the problems that doTERRA is working to avoid, obviously. So what is co-impact sourcing? So to avoid all of that nasty stuff we just talked about, doTERRA started co-impact sourcing in the initiatives in the growing and distillation communities that they source from. So these initiatives focused on using responsible sourcing practices for doTERRA essential oils while working to improve the lives of the people in the growing and distilling communities. And it really is the people there. It's not just the growers or the distillers. They really help the whole families and communities. So they'll often build health centers or schools, facilities so that children don't have to work in the fields, and safe working conditions where they've been unsafe before. So they really do go in and help the whole kind of community there. And so what I really love about this is that sometimes I see companies, you know, selling this or that, like whatever product it is, and then they kind of like just tag on there, oh, this company gives back, or this, you know, by this person gives back or something. And it kind of feels like an afterthought that like, oh, we're giving to charity, so this is a good company to buy from. And do you know what I mean? Like it feels like an afterthought to try and sound like they're a good company. But with this is literally what the company of doTERRA was founded on. Okay, it's founded on sustainability, integrity, empowerment, fairness, all these things, because this is what starts the oil. Okay, like we don't have these beautiful little bottles and rollers if this process isn't gone through. So it's what this entire company is founded on, is on treating people well and fairly. And once you've been around doTERRA for a while, and the more you hear about them as a company, you'll see that it's so much more than a wellness company. That it really does, the goal really is to empower people with their health, and empower people in their business, both here and in the sourcing places. So some other companies will own the farms, they'll buy them out. But the thing is, that's not the best thing necessarily for these people in these developing countries, because if they are living in a remote area where they have where they've been working on these farms for centuries, their family has, and then a company comes in and like buys the farm off them, then they've got a big bag of cash. But what are they going to do with that? Like there's, you know, what they really need is like they've just sold their land. They've sold everything they had to this company in return for cash. But the land is what has been passed down through generations, and what they can pass down through their generations as a source of income is their inheritance, and they're giving it away. So that's not really empowering them. Okay, and by purchasing it, you're taking away from them instead of having them stay and partner with them. So doTERRA chooses partnership over ownership. And even in times when that's harder, they empower people for partnership. So what I mean by that is in Kenya, where they source geranium, there was a lady, I forget her name. Anyway, there's a beautiful story that we heard at convention about this lady who worked in Kenya. So she found herself in a position where she, her husband had died and she had kids and she couldn't feed them. She had no money. She was trying to make bracelets by the side of the road and sell them to trucks. And then she found herself in a position where she was only able to sell her body to feed her kids and send her kids to school. So then someone found her. It was I forget his name. I should remember his name. Someone, a guy who works for doTERRA at the geranium fields in Kenya, found her. He said, "Oh, come and pick geranium. Well, it's a safe job. I'll keep you safe, and it's fair wages." So she started to come and pick geranium, and then after that, she was able to have her own geranium farm. Okay, so what they did is she couldn't afford to buy her own geranium farm, right? So what they did is they gave her microloans so that she could so she had a small loan to purchase the seedlings for geranium, and then she was able to purchase that and start to grow her own farm. So doTERRA gave her a loan to help her own her own farm, and then doTERRA was the guaranteed buyer for her. So it was a safe job, it's a sustainable job, and she was able to send her kids to school and feed her kids. So it's something that they actively choose to do. They're looking for ways to empower people. They're not just looking for shortcuts and the cheapest way to get things done. Okay. So what are the guidelines of sourcing? Like, there's a lot of principles. I'm going to have to go through them quickly because I'll be talking for ages. But providing fair jobs, okay, providing jobs. So we seek to generate new jobs and reduce poverty through the essential oil production process in order to help families in developing countries. doTERRA supports small-scale farmers, growers, and distillers by creating sustainable jobs in rural and undeveloped areas throughout the world. And then by creating these jobs, doTERRA aims to help the people in developing countries become economically self-sufficient. They provide fair and on-time payments, so they don't have to get ripped off by middlemen. So as mentioned, the growers and the distillers are forced to turn to middlemen when they don't have a guaranteed buyer, which typically results in unfair payments and delayed payments. So doTERRA ensures that partners are paid on time and compensated fairly for their hard work. Like they're out in the fields, it's hard work. By partnering with doTERRA, growers and distillers will always have a guaranteed buyer and can receive the fair payments they need to support their families and their business. Often, doTERRA will provide prepayments or loans to help sourcing partners manage cash flows or provide food or other commodities as payment, as that can be more valuable than money in some cases. Building supply capacity. So to help the farmers, distillers, and producers do their best, doTERRA consistently works to support projects and investments that will improve efficiency and strengthen productivity. So doTERRA helps build the capacity of suppliers by providing storage services and facilities for plants, helping with logistics and transportation, offering helpful technology, providing agricultural training, and more. So by offering the resources and services that help the growers and distillers do their jobs more efficiently and effectively, doTERRA can not only guarantee the production of high quality essential oils, but they also maintain the good relationships with the partners. And the goal is to sustain long-term partnerships. So doTERRA aims to support small-scale farmers and producers with long-term contracts, like they're in it for a long time. So this way, the growers and the distillers can enjoy the security of the long-term growth and economic support, while doTERRA can secure their ability to keep up with a consistent demand for high-quality essential oils. Every doTERRA partnership is based on trust, fair treatment, and mutual respect. Ensuring fair labor conditions. So obviously making sure that people are safe and they're not mistreated, and ensuring that the growers and farmers are not exploited, harassed, or discriminated against. And doTERRA makes fair labor conditions a top priority. At a minimum, doTERRA partners must comply with national and local laws regarding health and safety, working conditions, and labor laws. doTERRA also promotes cooperatives. So as part of the Co-Impact Sourcing Initiative, doTERRA supports the right for farmers, growers, and distillers to form co-ops, as working together often results in a better production process. By cooperating and collaborating, producers in the growing and distilling communities can gain access to collectively owned equipment and storage facilities. And then environmental stewardship. So of course, making sure that everything is done in a way that's sustainable to the environment and respectful to the environment, and to help minimize their carbon footprint. So we look at reducing the carbon footprint at every stage of the process. And then finally, facilitating community development. So we know that this is a long-term thing, and it's going to depend heavily on the livelihood and quality of life of the surrounding community. So doTERRA looks to invest in improving the living standards in the growing and distilling communities, and it's a major goal of the doTERRA Co-Impact Sourcing Initiatives. They want their partners to have the support and resources they need to help their business and their families flourish. And as part of that, doTERRA has helped with the constructions of schools, training facilities, health clinics, clean water systems, and other projects that fit the need of the community. So co-impact sourcing, that's what it entails. And if you think about it, before this was established, any oil company could come in and do other things. People could get ripped off by middlemen. They could have, really unstable wages. They could get like a high price one month and nothing the next month. They could go months without pay, and all this time they're doing the hard work in the fields. So now that you know what it is, we're going to look at some specific areas. I'm going to skip over frankincense because I've talked about it a lot before, but we're going to move on to some other areas. Cardamom. You probably haven't heard about that co-impact sourcing story. Cardamom. Do you know what oil blend this is in? So it's in, you can buy it as a single oil, cardamom, and it's also in the Easy Air blend, or the Breathe blend if you're in the US. It's in the Easy Air blend as it helps support the respiratory system. Okay, so this cardamom plant has many uses, and only 1% of all cardamom plants in the world are distilled to make cardamom essential oil. The majority of cardamom plants are harvested and sold into the global spice market, and the labor-intensive nature of cardamom harvesting makes it one of the most expensive spices. So we source ours from Guatemala, and it's the world's largest exporter of cardamom for the spice market. The hot, humid climate is perfect for the production of the plant to thrive in. Okay, so doTERRA has chosen this area. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name. They've chosen this area in Guatemala as a sourcing location because it's home to skilled, experienced cardamom harvesters and the optimal climate and produce the best plants. There's frequent rain and a nutrient-rich clay soil that helps foster healthy plants and make a healthy quality cardamom oil. It's taken from the seeds of the plant, and it's also a close relative to ginger. The seeds of the cardamom plant are steam distilled to produce an essential oil with a spicy, fruity, warm aroma. While the environment of this area of Guatemala is ideal for growing cardamom, the area is really remote and transport is limited, which leaves the harvesters with few options for selling their harvested cardamom. Oftentimes, middlemen will come and buy the cardamom from the harvesters at a much lower price, only to resell the plant at a higher rate. This system makes it extremely difficult for the cardamom harvesters to make a profit and support their families. So doTERRA has established co-impact sourcing initiative here in Guatemala to help the harvesters make the most of their crops, receive fair wages, and benefit from access to helpful resources. So doTERRA has established co-ops that allow cardamom farmers to work together to earn stable incomes and improve the growing and harvesting methods. And in addition to the co-op resources, they have access to financial tools, drying facilities. Harvesting communities benefit from other projects, as doTERRA contributes a portion of every purchase of every kilogram of cardamom directly to building schools, hospitals, and providing other services for these families. There we go. We also have one of our main distilleries in Guatemala, and that's a main source for cardamom, but some other things are distilled there too. Also pink pepper. Okay, ylang ylang. This one is from Madagascar. Have you seen the ylang ylang fruit? It's really cool. It looks like a fruit. It's a flower, but it looks like a bunch of bananas. Like it's a really big yellow flower. It's like a star-shaped flower. So this tree must grow for 3 or 4 years before the flowers are even ready to be harvested. And they must be harvested during the peak months of December through March. So ylang ylang growers pick the flowers once they reach maturity, which means that a single tree can be harvested several different times within a 6-week period. Once the flowers are harvested, they must be distilled within 24 hours of being picked in order to preserve the chemical properties of the essential oil. Wow, right? So, I mean, there's another thing. Just think about other companies that may not be able to do the extreme testing that doTERRA is able to do. They could still make an essential oil, but if it's been harvested been distilled too late after picking, it would still create an essential oil, but it wouldn't maintain the therapeutic properties. Again, this is why other oils don't work, and this is why doTERRA does. Okay, so doTERRA sources ylang ylang from Madagascar, which has produced some of the highest quality ylang ylang oil since the late 1800s. So doTERRA ylang ylang oil comes from Nosy Be. That's a cool name, I can say that, Nosy Be, which is an island found off the northwest coast of Madagascar. So the harvesters of Nosy Be collect the baskets full of ylang ylang flowers, and they deliver them to the weighing station, where they're weighed and quickly delivered to a nearby distillery in order to allow the flowers to be distilled within 24 hours. The process of growing, picking, and distilling ylang ylang is a long and labor-intensive process. So it takes the co-op of several harvesters to produce a viable batch. Unfortunately, many ylang ylang growers and harvesters in Nosy Be cannot always find a guaranteed buyer, which forces them to turn to middlemen and brokers, and they don't get fair prices. So doTERRA has forged a partnership with ylang ylang growers and harvesters of Nosy Be. Love that. That sounds so cute. It should have been a kid's story. To ensure that they are fairly compensated for the labor-intensive work that they do. So now that they have their guaranteed buyer, the people of Nosy Be don't have to worry about dealing with middlemen or an unstable market. they're able to be fairly compensated, and the growers and harvesters can expand the capacity of their production by using the resources from machinery or hire more growers. In return, doTERRA knows that the ylang-ylang trees and flowers used to produce doTERRA ylang-ylang oil are being cared for by professionals who are passionate about producing useful and valuable essential oil. All right. doterra. That is the name of one of the biggest distilleries that doTERRA has in Bulgaria. It's so big it's got its own name, doterra. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Obviously, we go through a lot of lavender, so this has to be a huge production facility to maintain it. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over all the details of that one. But I just wanted to touch on this one quickly because this is a really cool story. I forget the year that they started their partnership with Nepal to source the wintergreen there. But shortly after they'd signed a contract to source their wintergreen from Nepal, there was a huge, devastating earthquake. It was very shortly after. So doTERRA could have pulled out and said, okay, we can't get any good wintergreen from here. This country's in chaos. But they didn't. They're like, no, we literally just partnered with you. Even though we can't benefit anything from you right now, we're going to go in and help you. And so what they did is they're like, no, we've got people there. We've got we're invested in this place. We've chosen this place. And so they were actually even able to get in before the Red Cross, which is insane. So right after the earthquake, doTERRA sent aid and tons of relief. And over the next year, was donated through doTERRA's wellness advocates, that's people like us, and customers, and through doTERRA's Healing Hands Foundation. We donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the support for the post-earthquake needs in Nepal. But just think about that for a moment. Like, there's a huge crisis, a huge earthquake, and while everyone's kind of scrambling trying to get aid, for some reason, with like the borders and everything, doTERRA was able to get in before the Red Cross. So they were like there, like right away. They were among the first people on the ground. And literally, it was some of the, Emily Wright was there. She's one of the 7 founders of doTERRA. So they're not just like, they're invested in these people in these communities. And like, they literally went over there right after the earthquake, bringing aid, getting their hands dirty, doing everything they could. Whereas many, like, if you think about it, many other businesses would have said, oh, we're out. Like, this doesn't make sense economically for us. But it does, because we're investing in the community and the people there, and that grows long-time trusting relationships. So doTERRA's in it for the long term. They're in it to make trusting relationships and long-term business partnerships. Another thing about Nepal is, okay, let me refer to my notes for this part. So they source wintergreen and spikenard there. So wintergreen is one of the few oils that you can't take internally. You can buy it as a single oil, or you can also find it in our deep blue oil and the deep blue rub. So, and those are the ones you can get for free this month if you have an order of a certain size. So it comes from the wintergreen plant. It's a leafy shrub that grows best in cool climates in shady forests, and a very specific soil. So because these requirements are so specific, natural wintergreen is provided solely by China and Nepal, as it grows in remote areas of the Himalayan foothills. Wow. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being a harvester there? That must be so beautiful, working in the Himalayan foothills. So many essential oil companies choose to use synthetic wintergreen oil. And actually, when I pass this around and have people smell it, a lot of people find the smell familiar, and they might notice it from other kind of synthetics that they've used in other kind of muscle rubs. Okay, so it's just the synthetic version of the wintergreen oil. So doTERRA works with local Nepalese harvesters to maintain the doTERRA standard of quality by creating oil from pure natural wintergreen. So harvesting wintergreen is labor intensive, and mainly because of its location. So harvesters must climb into these remote areas of the Himalayas to retrieve the natural wintergreen. Man, okay, so doTERRA do some co-impact sourcing trips. So sometimes people get to go. Man, I would love to go there. I would love to climb into the Himalayan foothills and like pick some wintergreen with these beautiful women. Okay, so after filling large baskets with wintergreen leaves and branches, the harvesters make their way back down the muddy mountain with the harvest. Wow. So many of them need to work to support their families, and particularly after the natural disaster like that earthquake that just happened, they've left the country damaged and devastated. So with this co-impact sourcing initiative, it allows the Nepalese wintergreen harvesters and distillers to form community co-ops that allow them to work together to produce high-quality wintergreen oil. These co-ops are called First Community User Groups, which allows members of these communities to collectively own and oversee the forest areas where wintergreen is grown. Okay, so they're owning it, right? Like, we're partnering with them. We're not taking over anything. We are partnering with them, which is a really, really important distinction to make. So together they decide which areas are harvested, who will harvest them, and where and when the wintergreen will be distilled. So both doTERRA and the people of Nepal care deeply about sustainable harvesting. So the co-impact sourcing initiative in these forest community user groups ensures that the land is being cared for and that the plants are being responsibly sourced in order to protect the environment. Yes, so sustainability, so that we can keep growing these plants and we're not wrecking anything. We can keep providing business to these wonderful harvesters and growers, and we can keep receiving the wonderful oils. So, I mean, we talked about the ylang ylang flowers taking 4 years to mature. The trees that the frankincense is harvested from, those trees take 100 years to mature. So, like, having a plan for sustainability is very important. And also the Hawaiian sandalwood obviously comes from Hawaii. Those trees take about 50 years. So they recently just planted a whole nother batch. So again, like they just planted and invested. They're not going to be able to reap the oil from that for at least another 50 years. So long-term goals here. Okay, so I'm going to skip over the spikenard. Okay, we're just going to go to ginger, and I think we're going to end with that because I don't want to go too long here. So ginger, I have some here actually, and a little sample to give someone some ginger. And I have some ginger in my tea right now, ginger and lemon. Ginger. Okay, so there's been a lot of recent progress with the co-impact sourcing initiatives in doTERRA in Kenya. This has been a very difficult country to coordinate operations in. So the coast of Kenya is an optimal place for a co-impact sourcing initiative that will produce high-quality essential oils while helping improve the lives of the people that live there. The people in this area of Kenya experience many challenges, including the issue of maintaining ownership of their land. While Kenya has experienced economic growth due to success in agricultural and more stable government, people in poverty-stricken areas are still struggling to successfully maintain ownership of their land and therefore their crops. Because land on the coast of Kenya is beautiful and desirable, many wealthy officials have begun to buy land in this area. Kenya is still developing laws on property rights, so many people fear that wealthy individuals will come in and buy their land because they are unable to prove legal ownership. To make matters worse, many of the poor people on the coast of Kenya are undocumented with the government, which makes it even more challenging to maintain ownership of their land and crops. Even though many of these people have lived on their land for generations, they live in fear that someone with more money will take it from them because they do not yet have the official legal ownership of the land. As part of the co-impact sourcing initiative in Kenya, doTERRA has partnered with farmers in these areas, helping to obtain bank accounts and recognition from the government in order to secure their land. Because many of these processes will take time, and because it will take several years to create good aromatic crops in these areas, this partnership with Kenya will be long-term. This will allow farmers and their families to have more stability and to continue to grow crops while they work to become Kenyan citizens who officially own their land. Over the next few years, doTERRA looks forward to partnering with the farmers on the coast of Kenya to produce essential oils like ginger, eucalyptus, and more. In addition to the difficulties with maintaining land, this area of Kenya presents even bigger problems for those who live there, problems that doTERRA is trying to solve. So, for example, clean water is not readily available, so women and children must travel long distances to obtain water from dangerous crocodile-infested water. Even after obtaining water, it still must be boiled and strained to be considered safe for use. Part of the doTERRA co-impact sourcing initiative in Kenya has been about bringing clean water to Kwale country, a poverty-stricken area on the southern coast of Kenya. Along with providing clean water, doTERRA has also provided farmers with improved technology to help care for their crops and education about important topics like planting, harvesting, and crop protection. With these resources, doTERRA hopes to empower farmers to use the skills they already have to produce better crops. doTERRA has helped to establish a community center in this area where farmers and community members can gather for events, collaborate, educate one another about farming. And while some of these things, clean water, cell phones for communication, and a community center, may seem simple, they've helped to transform the lives of these Kenyan farmers and their families, giving them resources and confidence that they need to do their jobs. So Emily Wright has commented on the co-impacting initiative in Kenya, saying that we're really excited about all the possibilities that will soon be coming realities in Kenya. We are literally creating an identity for the Kenyan people and giving them hope for tomorrow that they never thought was possible. This is how we break the cycle of poverty and raise nations through our co-impacting sourcing efforts. So there we go. I think there's no better place to end than that. But just to say that, you know, in classes we often skip over the co-impact sourcing and make it a really short thing, but it's so big and it's something that shouldn't be skipped over. This is what doTERRA is about. It's about empowering people and, you know, working with integrity and fairness. It's about treating people right and providing the highest quality essential oils on the market as a result. So I hope that you learned something, that you enjoyed hearing the stories about the different areas where oils are sourced from. And let me know if you have any questions or if there's an oil that you want to learn more about where it's from. Okay, so I hope you learned something, and please share this with your friends. Okay, bye.